Good morning, everybody. Quick review on the atrial rhythms, okay? Atrial dysrhythmia start outside of the SA node, within the atrium. So let's go back to our basics. Do you remember our order of conduction here? We go from the SA node to the AV node to the bundle of His to the right and left bundle branches here, and then the Purkinje fibers, right? Do you remember what happens with the SA node? Which one of these is going to be affected? Right, our P wave is going to be affected because it's not starting in the SA node. So, the P wave is atrial depolarization. The atria are contracting. So, if the conduction doesn't start in the SA node, the P wave will be affected. The P waves will be absent, abnormal, or hidden. Okay? Are you following? So, atrial, no SA node, P waves affected. Okay? Anyways, again, conduction starts anywhere in the atria except the SA node. Alright? These are called your PACs, your premature atrial complexes. Alright? You see how funny they look there? They're all spaced out. So, your P wave, obviously, it's absolutely abnormal, premature, flat and tall or pointed. You see these? That one's right on top of it. This one isn't barely one. This one's, again, it's still rounded, but look, it looks so funny. This one does too. This one, there really isn't one. It's flattened. So, in your PACs, your P wave's going to be abnormal. Your rhythm's irregular, and everything else is normal, okay? Everything else, normal. Okay, your PAC patterns. Atrial bigeminy is every other beat is a PAC. Atrial trigeminy is every third beat is a PAC. Okay, you need to know those. Wandering atrial pacemaker, also known as a MAR. You're going to see at least 3 variations in the P waves, meaning 3 different types of P waves in one strip. Look at this one. It's a little pointed. This one, it's a little flattened out. This one, ooh, went all crazy. Where did that one go? So you see just in this strip, there's at least 4, possibly 5 variations. And again, we only need 3 variations. All right? So again, wandering atrial pacemaker, a MAR, at least 3 variations in one lead. Multifocal atrial tachycardia is when the atrial pacemaker is associated with a ventricular rate over 100. Okay? Ventricular rate over 100 is going to be your key for this one. It can be confused with atrial fibrillation because both are irregular and fast, but varying P waves are clear and matte. Look at all the different variations here of the P waves. There's no consistency. They all look crazy. Alright? But look at how close they are together. Your heart rate is going to be high. Okay. Atrial tachycardia looks similar to sinus tachycardia, but the P waves differ in shape from sinus P waves. Why? Do you remember? Because the conduction doesn't start in the SA node in atrial rhythms. And what's affected? Your P wave. Atrial tachycardia. Obviously, we know tachy means what? High heart rate. So this usually ends abruptly with the resumption of a sinus rhythm. Okay? Your P wave may be hidden in previous T waves. Why? Because your heart rate's so fast. Or you see that? So if your P wave's hidden, you're not going to be able to do your PR interval. You're going to still have a regular rhythm, even though it's super fast. Okay? An irritable focus in the atrium fires repeatedly at a typical rate of 300 beats per minute. This is atrial flutter. Okay? So you're looking at beats per minute of 300 plus. Your waves are going to look like sawtooths. Okay? Now keep this in mind also. A healthy AV node protects the ventricle from an abnormal atrial rate. Normally the AV node cannot conduct over 180 beats per minute. So if the AV node is working correctly, you won't go above 180 beats per minute, okay? All 3 things on this page you need to know. Okay? Need to know that. That is very important. So again, look at it. Sawtooth. Atrial rate, 250 to 300. PR, not interval. Look at these little saws here. Do you guys see those? Looks just like a saw in between. Obviously, you don't know which one's a P, a Q, a S. I mean, I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean? You can't see, but you definitely see that sawtooth definition. Okay. This, let's see. Hold on. AFib. Irritable sites in the atria fire at a rate of 400 to 600 beats per minute. Yikes, that is so fast. So this causes the firing, the muscles, to only quiver. They're not getting a full pump, okay? The muscles just barely quiver, and so you're going to decrease the amount of volume going out and the amount coming in, okay? When it's controlled, your heart rate is 60 to 100. Uncontrolled is over 100, but you see every other characteristic is the same. AFib. Ventricular rhythm is irregular. Described as irregularly irregular. Okay? No P wave. Why? Because the heart's just quivering, so it's not able to actually do a pump. Now, risk on this. Risk. It's blood clots and strokes, you guys. Blood clots and strokes. Why? Again, because your heart is not squeezing properly, so blood's just sitting there. Alright? So that's a major risk. Treatments, obviously going to be based on the ventricular rate. Also, they may do synchronized cardioversion. This is your table. I've included it in the last of your atrial table, or your atrial slide, because I want you guys to see what each has. So, PACs, abnormal or premature beats. Premature. Okay, that's something else you're going to want to remember. Now, let me go back out to my other slides so we can go through step-by-step atrial strip practice, because I know some of you still have this to turn in. Alright? So, atrial strip practice. Can you detect a P wave in this? You can't even tell what is going on, can you? I mean, it just looks crazy. Answer is no. They're not distinguishable. They're not visible. Okay? All these kinds of answers are acceptable for me. Not distinguishable, not visible, abnormal. When you're doing your test strips or your quizzes. Your PR interval. Can you measure the PRI on the strip? No. Without a P wave, you can't measure the PRI, okay? You see all this? You can't tell which one's a P. Okay, is this a regular, irregular, or irregularly irregular rhythm? An irregular rhythm has no pattern at all. All of that intervals are haphazard and do not repeat, okay? With occasional accidental exception. Luckily, there are only 3 irregular rhythms. AFib, wandering atrial pacemaker, and multifocal atrial tachycardia, okay? So, measure your RR distances. Do any of these have a pattern or rhythm? Okay, so we've got approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 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 boxes here. So, do you see that? But, looking at this, technically, when you measure them to the exact outside of the boxes, they don't match up. So to the naked eye, on the previous slide as you saw, it looked like, ooh, they might match up. But when you actually start measuring them in the techniques that we taught you using your pieces of paper, they don't match up. So there's no repeats at all. So it's irregularly irregular, okay? So it can be tricky. The naked eye versus actually measuring it can come up with totally different results. So don't forget your steps. Okay, to do heart rate, you're going to measure the number of small boxes R to R, right? So let's pick this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Oh, yep, this is the one we're going to pick. Look, there's 7 small boxes in there. So what's the heart rate? How do we figure that out? That's right, we're going to take 1,500 and divide it by the number of small boxes, 7. Okay? 1,500 divided by 7 equals 214 beats per minute. Okay. Oops, sorry. Alright. So, we've determined our P wave is not visible. Our PRI interval is not measurable. It's irregularly irregular, and your heart rate is 214 beats per minute. What rhythm is this? Answer, AFib, uncontrolled. Again, why? Look at the heart rate. Okay? So now I want you to take your quiz and get caught up on your practice strips, okay? Thank you and be safe.